Hi, this is Josh Malters, and this is my video presentation for the final draft of my info424 project. My topic was SpaceX, an aerospace company founded in 2002 by Elon Musk to revolutionize space technology and one day, hopefully, enable people to live on other planets. The first thing we will be discussing is the visual potential exposed by each of my displays. First is numbers. In the numbers display, I show how much stuff the Falcon Heavy can bring into low Earth orbit. I used a type of bar charts. Bar charts are a great way to exploit the numerical potential of data because they give a side-by-side comparison of relative information. This allows the audience to draw conclusions from the data without actually having to know what the numbers are. For instance, if you didn't see the 53,000 kilograms and the 18,510 kilograms, you could still tell that the Falcon Heavy carries a lot more weight than the Atlas 551. Next is location. I had a couple data sets I could use when I was looking at location, but what really makes a location display is not telling where something is, but showing where something is. Because of this, I decided to show the audience where the significant levels of orbit are located around the Earth. It also makes a quite visually appealing display. For example, earlier I show how much weight a rocket can take into low Earth orbit. If you didn't know where low Earth orbit was, now you do. To exploit the appearance potential, I decided not only to show the audience what SpaceX rockets look like, but what other rockets looks like as well. For example, here you can see the Space Shuttle and other common rockets like the Delta Heavy or the Titan rocket. I put them side by side to the Falcon 9 rockets so you can see the uniqueness or the commonality of each one. The relationship potential is arguably one of the hardest displays to create. Displays such as Venn diagram displays can be informative, but also incredibly boring. I'd yet to cover the reusability of SpaceX spacecraft, which is arguably one of the more important things SpaceX is doing. What this means is that a spaceship can launch, deliver cargo to something like the International Space System, and then land back on Earth again without having to explode all of its parts. This is one of the ways SpaceX is making rocket flight so much cheaper. The launch profile of a Falcon 9 rocket is a pretty good topic to exploit relationship potential. In this display, I draw, quite literally, lines between launch steps to show the relations. So for example, here you can see the stages of where liftoff is happening, where stage separation is happening, and then where the re-entry burn is ignited. My favorite display is the time display. Here I present a timeline of the company's history, but I do so using the exhaust path left behind the rear of a Falcon rocket. This display is a little unrealistic because no Falcon 9 rockets have currently orbited Saturn. However, it does make for quite a visually appealing display, and the path naturally leads the reader's eye from left to right, which is how a timeline should be written. The next thing I'll be talking about is encoding. Encoding is a way to put data or important information into a visual element without explicitly saying what it is. For example, if you look at my numbers display, the top picture on the right, you'll see that each crate is encoded with a value of 5,300 kilograms. In this way, I can create a bar chart to scale that also truly represents numbers. Something a little more subtle is, again, let's bring up the timeline. Left to right is a progression in time. From the far most left little block to the far most right block is an evolution of time, which is an encoding of values itself. Next up, something a little bit less numbery is colors. Colors are really important for your infographic because it doesn't matter how great you expose the potential of each of those topics. If you don't have a really good color scheme, it will look messy, or it could have encodings that you don't want it to have, or a reader could just be turned off by the subject entirely. For my background, I modeled a I emulated a model that was black and orange. I really like that black background as it kind of gives it a space feel, and it seems fitting that a space field infographic should be partnered with SpaceX. I use orange as a contrasting color, mostly for titles and things of importance. However, I decided to go with a more subtle orange, as it's not so hard on your eyes. And as far as the color harmony goes, it's much more analogous, which is kind of nice because everything is dim and dull, but because it fits together, it doesn't seem boring. Next up is text. My text model was fairly simple, but it had to do with statistics with Harvard and Harvard acceptance rates. And the text felt very academic, very professional and strong. And that's what I wanted for this topic, because SpaceX is a pinnacle of academia and human exploration, and I really wanted to embody that with text. For the large headers, I couldn't find the exact font the model used, but one very similar was the DIN condensed bold. You can see that with the SpaceX's Falcon rocket. Another thing that you can see is the Avenir Next, which is a smaller subject. I said you could see it. Yeah, you actually can't see it in this slide, but it's present. If we go, say, back here, I use it in the text under, like, for each of the locations in the location display. So each orbital level uses that. The paragraphs use Avenir Next condensed. As you can see a pattern, all the font is condensed. I feel like it really gives it a sense of maximizing space and efficiency, which is very much what an engineering company is all about. Numbers, again, also used in condensed, just because they're very strong numbers. As far as visual hierarchy goes, visual hierarchy is, what comes to your eye first, what pulls to your eye first. For more square displays or displays with it's not as clear of a flow as top down like mine, if you have something very large, it's going to attract your eye to that first. So you want to make sure that you organize the rest of your infographic around that. For my infograph, because it's very top to bottom, single column, visual hierarchy isn't as important as in terms of these giant visual elements that catch your eye right away. But it is important that the reader naturally reads from top to bottom. And I tried to exploit that to the best of my ability by making sure the headers were very clear, and I kind of started off with a smaller infographic to a larger infographic to the largest to again a little bit of a smaller to a little bit of smaller. On top of that, intentionally I put the infographics so they build on top of each other, but we'll talk about that more in layout. Unity and variety. This is very important. Unity is similarities in your infographic that kind of bring it all together, and variety, while it sounds like the opposite, actually again brings your infographic together, but it allows for a sense of change when the reader is going along the infographic that makes it come alive. It doesn't keep it so boring. So for example, Unity. You can see here I have a lot of headings that are all the same size, a white line, orange font on top of it, and then the section underneath it. So section, 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 section. They're all the same line thickness, they're all the same width, they're all the same height. Unity in color. My color palette is very simple, but it really brings the infographic together, I feel. However, on top of all of this, I have variety. I use the same rocket multiple times throughout the display, but I change its rotation. There's a part in the flight path where I separate the rocket or I add a flame behind it. It's these small variations that really kind of bring the infographic to life. Next is layout. Layout is really difficult because as we went through this process, we put each little part together. And at the end, you had to put them together to create the entire infographic. And what's difficult about this is that each visual display I made so that it could stand by itself and it was very independent. And so if you take a bunch of independent pieces and you try and put it together without any overall plan or scheme, they can fight for attention, which is not what you want. So that's why I decided to choose a vertical layout with a single column. It is true that if not executed well, it can appear very boring, but it allows for a very clear flow. And with an infographic like mine, where each visual display is very strong and very visually attracting, it kind of lets your eye rest on one element for a little bit and then rest on another, much like chapters in a book. Last up is alignment, something that's very important to the infographic, but very small. Alignment has to deal with visual elements, textual elements, numerical elements, any sort of thing that can be seen and being aligned relative to something else. I brought two really prominent examples of alignment on display here. The first one is my timeline, where each block of time, each date is aligned across. And what's really neat about this is that the vertical lines that connect to the flight path are of different heights. But despite that, they all feel like a cohesive unit because of the horizontal alignment. Or excuse me, vertical alignment, horizontally spread across. At the bottom, I have the flight path, and what I like about this is that there is clear alignment, but there's a bunch of different alignments. So each text is aligned. So liftoff, MECO, and stage separation are aligned. Boost back burn and booster flips over is aligned. SECO and payload separation are aligned. And then re-entry, grid, landing burns, landing leg deployment, and soft touchdown are aligned. And that really creates, again, a sense of cohesion in a display. It makes it more boxy feeling, it makes it feel more professional, it kind of leads your eye and guides your eye, it groups elements together, and overall just increases the visual aesthetic. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and I hope you got the sense that I have a deep understanding of everything we learned in this class. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful experience, and I hope you enjoyed my infograph.